Could you please disappear from our site?
I was told this by the bride when I attended the wedding of my doctor brother and the company president's daughter. My place card read, high school graduate. It seemed I wasn't welcomed not only by my doctor father and brother, but also by the bride who would become part of our family. In despair, just as I was about to leave, someone approached me and whispered,
"Shall we ruin that company?"
I nodded firmly at that voice and finally made up my mind. My name is Kent Alexander, 40 years old. I'm single. I have a younger brother, 2 years younger than me. His name is John. Unlike me, a high school graduate, he is an excellent student and an all-around athlete. Truly gifted both academically and athletically. My parents have high hopes for his future. Our family has been doctors for generations, and John was on his way to becoming one too. Our father is a doctor, and our mother is a nurse. However, I have been sickly since childhood, and right after graduating high school, I had surgery scheduled, so I couldn't go to college. My mother felt sorry for me and always stayed by my side, but my father and John were quite harsh, saying I was too dependent on her. They said unreasonable things like my sickness was due to my weak mind. Many times, I wished I could have been born healthier. But if I said that, my mother would blame herself, so I held it in. Besides, I wasn't the type to give up just because I was sick. Once I had surgery and settled down, I would do what I wanted to do. Someday, I wanted to live freely without relying on my family. If not aiming to be a doctor meant not being recognized as family, I would leave my family as soon as possible. I had made up my mind about that. After graduating high school, I successfully had surgery and put my plan into action 6 months later. I started with a part-time job at a restaurant. I was worried if they would hire a high school graduate like me, but they gladly accepted me, saying they didn't care about my educational background at all. Apparently, my bright smile made a good first impression, and that was why the manager decided to hire me. I hadn't been conscious of it at all, but the joy of being hired filled my heart. I learned the job of a hall staff with all my might and mastered the art of customer service. Before I knew it, I had turned 20. During that time, I saved some money and started living alone, significantly reducing the time I spent with my family. When I started working, my father and John said that nothing would work out for a high school graduate. But when I decided to live alone, they let me go without saying anything. I expected them to say I wouldn't be able to continue living alone. So it was surprising, but now I was living prosperously away from my family. I occasionally kept in touch and met with my mother to hear about my father and John's subsequent lives. John had graduated from medical school and became a doctor. He was running the hospital together with my father, inheriting it from him. Thinking about how John could complete the job of a doctor under such a strict father made me reflect. There has always been a clear difference between me and John since childhood. It made me realize it once again. But I couldn't afford to be depressed. I was just doing the job given to me to the best of my ability. I reconsidered and worked with all my might. Before I knew it, I had turned 39. A lot had happened during that time, but I spent every day meaningfully. Then, surprising news came to me, who always returned to my parents' home every year during the Christmas holidays. John had a marriage proposal. The person who would become John's wife was the daughter of a company president, named Emily Watson. I heard this from my mother, not directly from John, with whom I was in contact. They were still engaged and planned to register their marriage and hold a wedding after my 40th birthday. I naturally thought I wouldn't be invited. However, something astonishing happened when I returned home for the Christmas holidays this year.
You heard about my wedding from Mom, right? If you'd like, please come to the ceremony. Feel free to bring a friend.
With these words, John handed me the wedding invitation. At first, I was extremely surprised because it had been so long since John reached out to me. However, as I accepted the invitation, I gradually realized the significance. I had been invited to John's wedding as a member of the family. I was so happy that I couldn't help but stare at the invitation, and John chuckled at my reaction.
So, be sure to come on the day. I'll introduce you to my wife, Emily, before the wedding.
It seemed John had work to do, and he hurried off after saying that. I was quite surprised by the change in him, but maybe John was trying to reach out to me in his own way. I decided to let go of the past. Now, I just wanted to wish the two of them happiness. As I looked at the invitation, I felt a deep sense of happiness, almost as if it were my own. Time flew by, and the day of their wedding arrived. Before the ceremony, John introduced me to Emily. She was friendly and polite to me, and I thought, John must have changed because he met her. My father's attitude towards me hadn't changed, but I was content just to have a better relationship with John. My mother seemed happy to see John and me getting along, and she smiled more often. Before I started living on my own, she had taken care of me a lot, so seeing her smile made me happy. After finishing the reception, I entered the venue with my mother. The place was filled with John's and Emily's colleagues and friends. I was overwhelmed by the sheer number of people, but I was impressed by their wide circle of connections. I felt proud of John, who had become a doctor, and wanted to wish John and Emily true happiness today. However, when I looked at the name card on my designated seat, I froze instantly. What is this? My mother, who was next to me, turned pale. Some people even chuckled at my name card. The name on my card read high school graduate. Who would do such a thing?
It's us, Kent, the high school grad,
Said a familiar voice from behind, making me gasp. Even without turning around, I knew who it was, but the despair was overwhelming.
John, why did you do this to Kent?
My mother turned around before me and asked. I turned to confirm with my own eyes, and there were John and Emily, laughing at me. I didn't want to believe they had done this, but seeing John's expression confirmed it. He was wearing the same look he used to have when he looked down on me as a child.
Why? It's obvious, Mom. It's because he's just a high school grad.
I never thought there would be a high school grad among the people joining our family.
Emily was laughing at me alongside John. It was an unbelievable sight, but it was undoubtedly real. I suppressed the rising anger and questioned them. It's true that I'm a high school grad, but so what? Is being a high school grad such a bad thing?
Of course it is. You're already a disgrace to our elite family, and now you're affecting my wife's family too. But even so, Emily loved me enough to go against her family's wishes. You should be grateful for her generosity.
Apparently, Emily's family also disliked me for being a high school grad. When Emily's parents found out about me, they initially told her to give up on marrying John. But the bond between John and Emily was strong, and they didn't break up because of me. Emily's parents had no choice but to accept them, leading to this moment.
We almost didn't get married because of you. So, Emily and I planned to make you pay. We pretended to forget the past and acted friendly with you, just to ruin you at our wedding.
John's words caused a stir in the venue. From the way the story sounds, it makes me seem like the bad guy, almost as if I was the one who nearly tore the two of them apart.
By the way, it was Emily who suggested the plan to bring you down. She's my proud wife who understands my feelings.
We don't need a high school graduate in our elite family. So, Kent, I don't want you to ever think you can stand with us. Could you please disappear from our sight?
Emily smiled at me with a grin that seemed almost audible, but her words were cutting. I was left speechless. However, I almost caused their wedding to be called off. I thought it might be best for their happiness if I complied. All right, I won't attend the ceremony, and I'll disappear from the family. I promise.
Really? Oh, I'm so happy. Thank you so much for respecting our wishes, Kent. We'll be sure to be happy. Right, John?
Yeah, of course.
Emily's words were filled with joy, and John nodded happily. The two of them walked away from me and headed to the stage to start the ceremony. I could only stare blankly at their backs. John's colleagues and friends quickly made their way to their seats. No one spoke to me, not even my mother. She was too shocked to know what to say. In a situation like this, she probably doesn't know what to say to me. It was understandable. I sat down in despair. I never dreamed that John and Emily, who had been so open with me, actually hated me so much. But if I stayed here, John might eventually come over and angrily tell me to leave. I needed to get out before that happened. And just as I was about to leave,
Shall we ruin that company?
a voice came from behind me. I gasped at the sound. John had said I could bring a friend to the ceremony, but I didn't have friends because I was often sick and missed school. So I had asked my secretary, Michelle Thompson, to accompany me. I had forgotten in the shock of being betrayed by John and Emily, but I nodded firmly at her words. I had wished for their happiness so much, but now I was filled with a desire for revenge.
Kent, who is that?
My mother, sitting next to me, asked in confusion as she looked between Michelle and me. I realized I had never introduced Michelle to my mother. Mom, this is my secretary, Michelle Thompson. She came with me today.
Secretary? But Kent, weren't you working at a restaurant?
Sorry, Mom. I was late in telling you, but I already left the restaurant job and started my own company. I'm the president now. When I revealed to my mother that I was a company president, she was shocked. I had thought there was no need to talk about myself, but that might have been a mistake. If I had told John and Emily earlier that I had started my own company, this might not have happened. Thinking that, I stood up from my seat. I couldn't just sit here. In my sharp gaze, I saw John and Emily, who had just insulted me, radiating happiness. I left the seat with a card that read high school graduate and walked towards them.
What are you doing? I just told you to get out of our sight. Why are you here again?
Seeing me move to the stage, John said with an obviously irritated look. Then Emily, standing next to John, suddenly burst into laughter.
Oh, Kent. Is it because you're a high school grad that you don't understand words? You're really pitiful.
Emily's words made John nod, and they laughed at me again. But I remained calm and stared at them. The ones to be pitied are John and Emily. They have no idea they're about to be dragged into hell. There's one last thing I need to say. I haven't introduced the person who came with me today, so I thought I'd introduce her to you both.
Huh? We don't care about your companion. They're probably just another high school grad, right?
Ignoring John's and Emily's mocking laughter, I introduced Michelle. This is my secretary, Michelle Thompson. Since I don't have any friends, she came with me today.
A high school grad with a secretary? Don't make me laugh. You probably just hired her for the day.
Hired? No, I am the official secretary of the president.
What?
Michelle firmly denied John's ridicule. John and Emily were shocked to hear the word president from Michelle's mouth.
Kent, The president? Michelle, you don't need to call him president just because he hired you.
About that, let me make it clear. I am indeed a president. I took out a business card case from my suit pocket and handed them my card. They snatched the card and checked its contents. Sure enough, it had my name, company name, and my title as president.
What's the point of a piece of paper? It must be a fake.
Want to check? I pointed to the phone number on the card. John, clearly flustered, clicked his tongue and pulled out his phone from his tuxedo pocket, dialing the number of my company. After a while, a staff member answered. When John mentioned my name to confirm, they verified that I was indeed the president. John ended the call, trembling. Well, it was true, wasn't it?
No way, it could just be someone with the same name.
No, John, that's not it.
What?
It was Emily who first denied John's words. She had been silent and motionless since seeing my card. She is the president's daughter. Seeing my company name must have shaken her to the core. Her face had turned pale.
What's going on? Why is Emily so shocked?
Because the company on this card is a business partner of my father's company.
Emily's shocking words stunned not only John, but everyone in the venue.
A business partner? So what? Your father's company must be way above this one.
No, it's quite the opposite. If my father's company loses this partnership, it could go bankrupt.
No way.
John was aghast at the harsh reality. Emily seemed to have accepted defeat and hung her head low. It seems I've proven that I am indeed a president.
Ugh.
John glared at me, clenching his fists in frustration, while I met his gaze with a triumphant look. However, deciding it wasn't worth engaging further, I shifted my focus to the dejected Emily. Emily, your father, Sam, who is also the president of your company, is on a business trip and hasn't arrived yet. He should be here soon to see you in your wedding dress, but I'm leaving now. Please give him a message for me.
A message.
Emily, visibly nervous, looked at me with wide eyes. She seemed like a foolish person as I watched her. Tell him I won't be dealing with your company anymore. You can explain the situation to him.
If you do that, my father's company will go bankrupt. That's too cruel.
I don't mind. We're no longer family, just strangers. And it was you who told me to disappear from your sight. Rest assured, I'm good at keeping my word. I smiled as I said this, and Emily turned even paler, collapsing to her knees. Ignoring her, I turned my back on John and Emily and signaled to Michelle, who was beside me. Michelle, I have a task for you. Please terminate the contract with the bride's company immediately.
Understood, Ken.
Michelle and I descended from the stage. John's friends and colleagues watched us, but I didn't care. Mom, I'll be in touch. I'm leaving now. Returning to my seat, I spoke to my mother, who still looked shocked and couldn't believe what had happened. Then I headed towards the exit with Michelle, but someone appeared in front of us, blocking our way. Dad, what are you doing?
So, you became a president? Even so, causing this mess makes you a curse on our family.
It was my father who stood in our way. He seemed shocked to learn that I was a president, and his words were more harsh than usual, likely due to his agitation. He pointed to the stage where Emily was crying, with John trying to console her. It looked like I had ruined the wedding, but they brought this upon themselves. After all this time, you speak to me only to say that? I might indeed be a curse to you. Reflecting on my sickly past and present, I said this: But I now realize that something I didn't have back then was supporting me now. That's fine. I no longer expect anything from the family. There's no need to work together. I have something more important than family now. Looking at Michelle, she smiled softly, noticing my gaze. Yes, I had my company, my employees, and Michelle, my secretary, who helped manage everything. With trustworthy people by my side, I feared nothing. John and Emily brought this upon themselves. They're like devils in human form. Elite family? How long will you be trapped in such nonsense? A person's value isn't determined by their education or past. Whether your actions were right or not will be revealed in time.
Damn you.
I brushed past my angry father and left the venue with Michelle. After walking for a while and completely exiting the venue, I suddenly stopped and sat down abruptly.
Are you all right, Kent?
Michelle noticed my sudden collapse and spoke to me with concern. She knew about my sickly past and family issues, likely thinking my interaction with my family had upset me. Sorry, I'm fine. The tension just suddenly released.
I didn't expect you to be nervous, even though you were so composed earlier, Kent.
She said, looking surprised. So I denied it. I am human, after all, and can get nervous too. Facing my father for the first time in a long while took courage. My hands were still trembling, but I felt relieved after saying what I needed to. Michelle, thank you for accompanying me today. I feel like I finally moved past my family issues.
I'm glad I could help.
Standing up, I thanked Michelle, and she smiled at me. Later, I received a call from my mother, telling me what happened after I left the venue. The wedding felt like a funeral. People questioned how the family didn't know the high school god brother was actually a president, and some guests left in disgust. Emily continued crying, playing the tragic heroine. But when her father, Sam, arrived and heard the story, he was furious. He then ignored his daughter's wedding and repeatedly called my cell phone. However, I didn't answer any of his calls. Michelle handled the contract termination, leaving no need for me to get involved. She truly was a perfect secretary. The day after the wedding, John and Emily faced their comeuppance. John's behavior towards his brother at the wedding caused an uproar, and he was rumored to be extremely unethical within the hospital. No one wanted to associate with him, and my father was criticized for his lack of guidance, damaging the hospital's reputation. It was inevitable. Doctors are supposed to care for their patients. Yet, my father and John continued to harass me because of my high school education, even though I used to be sickly. This behavior earned the disdain of other doctors and nurses at the wedding. Emily, who mocked my education alongside John, was fired from her father's company when our contract was terminated. She had been working there to become her father's successor, but she was disowned after losing her job. Sam tried to correct the course after our contract ended, but it was futile, and his company went bankrupt. Emily, with nowhere else to go, suggested living with John, but it wasn't that simple.
If you hadn't proposed sabotaging my brother, everything would have gone smoothly.
John blamed Emily, rejecting her and putting all the blame on her. Angered by this, Emily retorted. She argued that it was John's fault for bringing up that his brother was a high school graduate in the first place. Their arguments escalated, leading to a marital fight on their first day of marriage, and they eventually divorced. The hospital's reputation worsened, and the hospital run by my father and John lost patients and staff, finally leading to its closure. Neither my father nor John could find employment in the same industry, and they now work part-time jobs together. Emily, too, had to switch to night work. But her new job was tough for someone who used to be a president's daughter, and she struggled to keep it. I heard all this from my mother. She divorced my father after the wedding. We now live free from the constraints of my father and John. To repay my mother for taking care of me since I was little, I gave her a luxurious apartment. She said it was too much for her. But after all the love and care she had given me, it was the least I could do.
I'm glad you could show your appreciation, Kent.
Michelle said with a smile after hearing about my family. She's a remarkable person, not showing off her contributions, despite being the reason for much of my success. As a president, I'm not perfect. I swore to strive to be a better person and worker, following Michelle's example.